Welcome back to another episode of the development of Crashed Away. I wanted to start by saying thank you to those who subscribed and liked the last upload. And I never thought I would say these words in my entire life. But if you could, take a sec to like this video and subscribe if you haven't. It would really help me raise the rookie numbers I have. Now, for those of you who are just here for the quick update on what I did with my 11-hour week, I spent the past bit of time working on turning the environment from this to this. Now, it's the entire environment that's randomized, and not just the locations of the buildings. On to the why and how if you want to still stick along. I wanted to start by focusing on getting the environment generating better for two reasons. First off, it's what I felt was most wrong with the prototype. The previous object terrain served its purpose of playing in a varied space, but that's all it was, and I hated it. The other reason is because it's going to be a big focus of the game, and I want to get a good start on it early. Now, that may of course sound silly, as yes, the environment is a big focus of any game. This may be hard to articulate properly. I want the environment to feel like an enemy in itself. These are supposed to be hostile alien worlds, and just having a wooded forest is not where I want it to stop. That is part of the initial inspiration behind the oxygen bubble, after all. The fact that without your tools, without your technology, this is not a place you can get by in. To that end, if you want a good enemy, it's got to be a fair one before it's a challenging one. Even though in the first environment the rooms spawned in specific preset locations, during playtesting it was so easy and frequent to make this mistake. You're searching along, following the minimap, and due to the camera angle, the room is just out of view. And now you think you've searched the area, and with the time constraint, you feel the need to move on and look elsewhere. You've got to find it. And by the very nature of these camera angles, the southern direction is always going to go the most underobserved. My thought was then to make the environment in the vein of a dungeon crawler. Chunk its area into rooms, quote unquote, that contain the important components with corridors that connect them. Hopefully, in this way, I can put the player in a situation they're in a game that I love and am taking inspiration from for this feeling, Payday. When you hit a bank, the bank's overall structure stays the same. But the variance there is the vault, the cameras, the loot, the guard pathing. Every time you get to the bank, after enough runs, you have down the feeling and planning, but you aren't ever 100% sure on the steps to take until you have to take them. I want the player to be in this situation. Say you enter a room, you may not know where everything is on an instant, and this may be the first time this combination of corridors took you to this room, but after a brief moment and looking around, you can recognize that you are within the communications room. And so now it becomes a twofold search of navigating the maze to find the communications room, and from there searching the communications room to find the communication device. I feel this is a positive change from the initial search approach of scan a massive open area for the tiny thing you need, which is easily missable. I started the week with a dungeon generation tool that got me moving forward quickly. Using a simple room and corridor set like this, I was able to make structures like these rapidly. I loved the tool's design, and I think it's a great tool for what it wants to do, but I quickly realized that it doesn't line up with what I need. The tool doesn't treat branches as priority to play, which is fine for many dungeon crawlers. It's a great tool for a game with A to B generation, but that's not the kind of tool I needed. I need to create more of a network with a central hub, the oxygen room, being able to spread semi-evenly to the rest of the area, play space, so you have this even oxygen bubble. So, searching around, I found this new tool, and starting over from scratch with Dungeon Architect, and a ton of tutorials, I was able to get the ball rolling. And I gotta say, I was stupid thrilled when I was able to make something like this. I was worried about having varying elevation to have cliffs and valleys in these environments because I felt like a flat environment would seem weird and off. But the tool was able to account for height variance wonderfully. So now I need a generation plan. The goal of generation should be to generate the oxygen room at the rough center of the maze, and from there branch 4 paths out to make junction rooms. From there, these junctions can make 1 to 3 more branches off to form new junction rooms. Those junction rooms, in theory, can have recursive junctions out further to a capped limit, and each of those can make 0 to 2 new junctions to kind of rein back in the chaos. But just for now, after seeing a generation plan of 600 rooms be created, I'm just going to stick with the initial 1 to 3 off the main junction. These rooms then will be taken at random and swapped out for the actual objective rooms, so that at the tips of these branches and mazes is where you'll find your goals, instead of being near the oxygen room and forcing you to take paths to their extreme in order to find what you need. Moving forward, I want to better structure the tiles. In their current state, they are uneven in size, have weird connection points, especially the S and the mirrored S tiles. And I just feel like in their current state, they're fine, but in the future, the maze generation is just going to be really unruly. And that might not necessarily be a bad thing, but at least for now, I can't see it being a good one. So I restructured the tiles to make them in a gridded size. Every tile fits within a 40 by 40 unit space, no matter its design, with the exception of the S tiles, which fit in a 40 by 80 space, to be able to make its kind of connection that it does. I'll have to play with it some more down the road. If it's too rigid, then I may have to come back and change it for something more chaotic, but I feel like we can get the feeling of it not necessarily being so rigid within the space itself, while keeping the exterior very calculated and gridded. And after implementing the new generation logic with the new gridded tiles, I was so excited. I mean, looking at these structures, they vary in height, they're fun, they flow, they're not over the top convoluted, but they make sense. And sure, visually speaking, there is a drop. I traded trees and hills for colored cubes, essentially. But this now screams potential. I mean, hell, when I was playing with these tiles and I generated a path like this, and it crosses over the road below it, and my first impulse was to try and restructure the logic to prevent this, but then I realized, how cool would it be for a gap/bridge puzzle where failure means you're now in a different part of the maze because you fell down, or something else of that nature. I feel like there's a lot that can be taken and run just with what's been achieved here in this week. I mean, look at this. How is that not cool? Come on. And with that, thanks for following along and sticking with it if you still are. Drop a comment if you want to know something specific about what was done here, or if there is something you want to see evolve in particular, or have me go into more depth in future videos, like code or design. Let me know, and I'll happily oblige. I'm here to both make this game and attempt to entertain. And with that, see y'all next week.